Hello, everyone, and welcome today's guest. We have Elinia Eads. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, Eats. Hello.
Okay. Elinia is a friend and colleague. I've worked with her on several TV shows. Did we do Love and Death? Did
Yes,
you do Love and Death?
Love and Death. I
Yeah,
think we
yeah.
met on 12 Mighty.
12 Mighty Orphans. Oh my God. And then 1883 Yellowstone, and then
Yeah,
1923,
yeah,
and then we're racking up a
yeah,
good little party here.
yeah.
She is a fellow makeup artist for television and film. And Alinea, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing hair and makeup for 13 years now, so it's a
What
little,
got you
little
into
bit.
it? I gotta ask, how did you get into it?
I was a military wife for 7 years, and when my ex-husband was deployed one time, I decided to get pinup pictures done for him, and
Ooh,
the photographer liked my makeup better than the girl that she had hired to do hair and makeup, so she kept
oh,
her for hair and then hired me for makeup. And
oh, nice.
my mom was like, I've
That's
never seen you so happy in your life. You should go to school for this. So if we found a good school that was based, my teacher brought the makeup designery beauty program to a school in Hawaii, and I was able to take that.
very cool. So, if you had to describe or put yourself in a niche, I know you said you do like hair and makeup, but do you have like a specialty? Do you do like effects makeup, beauty makeup? What's your jam?
I started out doing effects makeup. I really, really, really wanted to go into more effects driven makeup, and
Right.
primarily I do beauty makeup now. It's interesting how that works out.
Yeah.
There's just, Dallas is an interesting market, so you got to keep it versatile.
Is that where you're currently based out of Dallas?
Yeah, based out of Dallas.
But you weren't always based out of Dallas, were you?
No, no. I started working in Hawaii back in like 2010.
Okay.
So,
Um, so that's very interesting. You and I will never forget. You gave me a lovely crystal gift.
yes.
Was it on? I think it was on 1883. But you gave me stones. Do you remember this? And like crystals, and it was just like a small little gesture,
Yeah.
and it just meant so much, and I
Oh.
was so grateful for that. At the time, I was just kind of getting into like crystals and stones, and
Hmm.
I've always been very into like the woo woo, or metaphysics, as you will. And especially over lockdown period, it was a huge time for me to personally grow and reflect and really just embrace that side of me,
Hmm.
and not care about what other people think. And so in a lot of ways, I'm very grateful for you, because I've always felt open to talk to you about strange, bizarre things.
Oh,
I feel
yeah.
like you appreciate it, and nurture it and encourage it. So thank you. And I'm super happy you could be here and part of my journey.
Thank you for having me.
It means a
I'm
lot to
really
me.
happy that you're embracing that side of you. I think it's really important to be genuine to yourself and how you feel about things.
Thank you. Now, where do you stand on the metaphysics? Like, do you believe in ghosts?
Um,
Where do you stand?
I do believe in ghosts. I believe there's a lot more to the universe than the human eye and sometimes mind can comprehend. There's just so much out there to say for sure that there is or is not something one way or another. So I'm very open
Yeah.
to spirituality and things like that.
Now, can I ask a, a deep question? Are you religious, or are you more
I tend
spiritual? Like,
to I tend to say spiritual but more agnostic.
okay, that's fair. Agnostic is not atheist, right? Atheist means you don't believe in a higher power.
Right. I guess
Agnostic means you're not sure where it
agnostic
comes
is
from.
more of like a broader spectrum. I tend to define it for myself as, like I just kind of said, that I don't really know one way or the other. Having been present at certain very deep moments in a person's life, like life and death, it's hard to say that there isn't something on the other side. So.
Yeah. And if I had to describe you in one word, it would be resilient. Would you mesh with that? Would you vibe with that?
I would say so. I don't quit if that's what you mean.
You don't quit. I feel like you're a really hard worker, and I feel like that's also one of the reasons why you can have such a profound effect on people. Um, because sometimes people need that inspiration.
Yeah.
And I feel like you very much are inspirational, whether you realize it or not. So I
Oh,
just wanted to throw that throw that little love your way.
thanks.
And
Sorry, that makes me. That, sorry, I'm swearing.
I love that. No, no, no. It's um, so that being said, I definitely get the feeling that you have lived and seen a lot in your life.
I feel like that's accurate.
Typically, yeah, people that are resilient typically have curveballs thrown at them often. And one of the things that I was very interested to dive into with you is you were telling me that you had an experience with a ghost one time, maybe possibly like
Yeah.
something was thrown at you in a kitchen. Was
Yeah.
that
There
in
were some.
Hawaii or was that?
There were definitely some interesting times in Hawaii that we had. We lived on a naval base, probably not too far from the town of Wahiawa on the north shore of Hawaii, and it was old naval housing that had been there since maybe the early 20s, and they knocked it down to build all new housing, which we then lived in. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of talk from the locals about it. I guess creating some unrest with the spirits in the area, and so we always kind of had a few different like weird experiences when we lived there. My family and I, and like one example was we had spices. I had like a spice rack in my kitchen, and it was like
Spicy kitchen. All right.
I like to cook, so
I love that. I bet you're good too.
I've been doing it for a while, so I'm
Yeah.
not the worst at it. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, we had some spices that were on the rack, and I was in the kitchen cooking something, and it was kind of the far side towards the wall, so I don't think it fell off. It just seemed almost like it was pushed off, and it kind of fell off really far. And that caught me off guard that it happened like once or twice, and then we would hear what sounded like people running in our upstairs when we were all downstairs, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, there's things
Did
like that.
so so we're already kind of locals were saying maybe that the construction there was creating like an unrest in the ground
Yeah.
and like spiritually. Did you ever at any point feel like any of that stuff followed you in your travels?
Oh, most definitely. They tell you in Hawaii to not remove the lava stones
I
from the
was going to
island.
ask that actually. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tell me more. I was totally going to ask that, but yeah, I'm down. Where are you going?
Yeah,
Tell me
so me
more.
being me, I was like, oh, pshaw. So I took some with.
I would do the same thing.
Yeah, no, I took some with me, and even collected like some sand for one of my best friends when he was there from the beach, that the first beach he went to when he went to Hawaii,
Yeah.
and brought it back. And they say on the Big Island that so many people have crazy experiences after they do that. Just in life, it can be bad luck or spirits following you and things like that, or
Oh
the
no.
people will actually mail it back. They'll just send their lava rocks back to Hawaii.
What did you
So
do with your rock?
they're still in my bathroom.
Really?
I'm friendly
Okay.
with my
All right.
spirits. It's fine.
She she lives on the edge. We like that.
Yeah. So,
I a friend of mine actually told me that when her and her family went to go visit, sand had gotten in their pockets or something like that,
hmm.
and the sand, like they didn't clean out their clothes and whatnot. And when they got back home, her husband, my friend's husband, fell very ill.
Oh wow.
And they, when she was unpacking and whatever, she discovered that there was a bunch of sand from the beach that had come with them. And so she wasn't a superstitious person before, but because that was so echoed throughout
Hmm.
their visit, not to take anything away,
Oh yeah.
that she immediately freaked out and like put all of it back into a mason jar and mailed it back to Hawaii. I said, where did you mail it? Like what
Where did
address did you use?
right? Who do you send it
Like
to?
yeah, like to a national park or something. But I thought that was really funny. I've never been to Hawaii, so give me an idea. Is that all throughout all of the islands, or is it like one island in particular? Like, where do
Um,
you want to avoid taking rocks from?
I want to say all the islands. They're all considered, I mean, each places kind of have their own spiritually inclined areas. Our island where we lived was really close to these birthing rocks in Hawaii. I think you can look them up online, but
Okay.
it's just where
Birthing
people
rocks,
would
like
go
birth,
and
like giving birth.
yeah, they would go to these rocks, travel to this rocks in this one area. It's really beautiful. You can see the mountain and the sunset behind it, and there's these big, beautiful trees and just fields of grass all around you, and just a red dirt trail um, leading up to these rocks, and they would go there and have their babies. And
Nice.
also, if you traveled further down the North Shore, there was the remnants, or I guess ruins, of an old, I guess, temple that the ancient Hawaiians used to use that was on the cliff of one of the cliffs of, where is it? Waianae on the North Shore.
Yeah,
So,
that's really cool. And the reason why I asked earlier if things ever followed you, because you and I had been talking about scheduling a time to do this and make
yeah.
this interview happen. I know that we had loosely talked about today, but for some reason today, all day, shit's been falling off my desk.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so my laptop keeps coming unplugged, like somebody unplugged it and threw it on the floor, and I even like had to trap it and tape something on it so that it would stay like on the desk that I have it on. It's never done that before.
Oh,
It
wow.
happened at least 3 times today. And then when I was in the bathroom earlier and I was putting a little hairspray on, I
Hmm.
put the hairspray at the edge of my counter, and then as I'm walking off I hear it go and it just
It falls off.
fell over onto the floor. And that stuff has never happened around my apartment.
Yeah.
And not so noticeable today that I'm like, wow, stuff keeps falling everywhere and keeps getting thrown at me in a way. I almost feel like whatever's following you was like tapping into me. Like,
Reaching out to you.
does that make sense?
Oh,
It's
totally.
so weird.
That's
So I'm
crazy that
really
that's
curious
happened.
about your rocks. Yeah, like it was like all day, like something's been buzzing in my apartment, like letting me know, hey, you're gonna reconnect with your old girl,
You're right.
with your girlfriend. So
Yeah,
I
no,
just have to
I'm
point that
very
out.
curious now where people send those because I'm like, people told me I should send them back, and I still just have them in a little tiny jar. Do you want me to go get them?
Yeah.
So I keep these in my they've
Ooh.
been in this jar since I think I moved here.
Oh my God! Don't unleash something unholy, please.
Well, so they're really pretty. They have little bits of peridot in them. So when you
Mm.
hold them up to the light, you can see these little specks of like green in them, and they're from a few different
Little
islands.
specks.
Or sorry, two
That's
different islands.
beautiful.
They're from Oahu and the Big Island. And the Big Island was where they gave me the biggest warning about not to take them.
That's so funny. I mean, I bet at the end of the day, they're giving that warning because they don't want the shore to
Yeah,
erode or something. They don't want the island to break
just
off.
everybody takes a little
Um,
piece, it falls into the ocean.
Truly, truly. And that being said, I gotta say, I just finished an interview earlier today with Nicholas Pearson, who's an author, and he wrote a book called Crystal Basics, which is probably one of my favorite go-to crystal books now because it
Hmm.
has every kind of like anything you're looking for crystal knowledge.
Oh, awesome.
And his newest edition is like 450 gemstones. It's really really cool. But one thing that we were talking about was um, like having appreciation with the land and the energy. So I feel like if you've made your peace with, mm, let me rephrase that. I like to mine crystals and
Yeah,
rocks,
yeah.
and I feel like regardless, like if you're gardening, you pick a flower, a rock, anything from the earth that the earth has like created,
Hmm.
and I won't necessarily say given to you, But I feel like if you take it with appreciation and gratitude, like you mentioned before, like knowledge and understanding, like if you guys are good, it should be good, right? I
I
mean, you
mean,
don't believe that the rocks are
I
cursed, do
hope
you?
so. I feel like it only brings bad luck if you believe it does, you know? If that
Yeah.
then you attract that into yourself.
Well, and I also kind of go that way as well with, as I've been doing my whole metaphysical study and stuff, and I'm actually working on a curriculum right now, like a meditation curriculum and
Oh,
like a
awesome.
manifestation
Yeah,
stuff. And what I've gathered is really you're the magic. Like you, yourself,
100%.
your energy, your intent, you know? Um so would you think that your rocks are cursed, or are you just
I
having like a spicy, I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I've gone
Curses,
back
they're
and
real.
forth on that over the years as things have happened in my life. I sometimes wondered if maybe the bad luck was brought on by this, the aura, or I guess the something behind the rocks that I took. It's always been at the back of my mind. But at the end of the day,
At the back of your mind, you're like, shit.
why did I do that? Should I send them back? Where do I even mail them to? um,
That would be a really cool experiment, though.
yeah. What if I
You're
just
like,
sent
what
like
if you
half
send
of
them
them
back and
back?
then you, yeah, and then you like win the lottery and win an Oscar or
Yeah. I don't
an
know. I've had
Emmy or
a
something.
series of what people could consider really bad, unfortunate things happen to me consecutively since I've moved back. As you've mentioned, the resilience thing, it doesn't come from no trials and tribulations. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. I think it's all about your perception and your perspective and how you choose to overcome situations. So I don't necessarily think that the rocks
absolutely.
brought me any bad juju.
Well, that's good. I mean, one could also say when you go to the gym, you get stronger by lifting heavier weights, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. So
you're just stacking up the barbells and,
yeah,
just
trial
doing your
through
thing.
fire.
Literally, like the fire of a volcano.
Oh yeah. And
Um,
I've always thought they were really just neat because I don't know, this is from the Earth. This is potentially millions of years old. That's just incredible that you can
mhm.
hold history in your hand like that.
It blows my
So,
mind. Honestly, that's my biggest calling towards rocks and minerals is that, yeah, they were created by something amazing. Just I don't know. They're just an amazing creation from Earth
yeah.
and from the planet. And again, like you said, like they hold years and years and centuries and God knows how long in just their creation alone. And that's why part of me feels bad, like mining or disturbing something, because then
Yeah.
you're like, oh man, you were so happy there in your dark little hole, and here I am, whoopsh. And
That's life
that's
though,
why
isn't
I
it?
also, no joke. I mean, right out the birthing canal, right? It's like bright lights and like
100%.
let that be the analogy. I also got to say, if you hear children screaming, no, I don't have kids. No, I don't have them hostage. There's a daycare like right outside of my apartment window, and right around this time, they come out screaming, and it's
Homer's just out
madness.
playing with his
This
friends right
is,
now.
I know, and this is always the time too where I'm trying to do podcast interviews or record YouTube videos and whatnot, and they're screaming, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Sorry if
Want to
you
be
can hear
like,
my ice maker going in the background. My kid got me one of those nugget ice makers for Christmas and it keeps like dumping ice.
ooh, is it like the good Sonic ice?
It's the good ice. I know.
Good
I was like,
ice. I
that's a
love the
good boy
good
right there.
ice. So, have you ever dabbled with anything like a Ouija board or?
Oh,
I mean, you seem
definitely.
to live on the edge with taking the lava rocks. Like, have you dabbled in like seances or anything like that?
I was a practicing Wiccan when I was in like middle school through probably up into my early 20s. Um,
Right on.
yeah.
What caused the change? Like, why did you stop?
Um, if I'm being 100% honest, I found myself in the raver scene and different things took priority. And then, I became a mom. It
Okay.
just, I never really lost my spirituality or my belief in that. I just stopped really practicing as much and I just express it in different ways now that I'm older.
Did you have like a sect of Wiccan practices that you were leaning towards, like Egyptian or Celtic or
More Celtic.
like? Okay, that's
Yeah.
really cool. I get that. I get that from you a little bit, but I never asked that question. I guess I didn't know. I have a similar, like when I was a teenager, the movie The Craft
Oh my gosh.
was like
Yes.
fucking baller, and I was like, I want to be one of these women.
Did you ever do the
I
light as
mean,
a feather, stiff as a board thing?
we did at parties. We tried to do it. Never worked. Never
No,
worked for us.
never. But it was always fun to try. We always thought it was working.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a Ouija board. I don't think I've ever seriously tried to use it. Um, I got one like later in my teenage years, trying to be all angsty and cool, and never tried it. I didn't have like a lot of success with it, but I still have it, oddly enough. And just the other night, my partner and I watched The Exorcist, and he had never seen it before, and so we were like, we have to watch it.
That's an awesome movie.
And he was like, wow. So he was like, wow, so the Ouija board is like how, she got possessed and so on and so forth. And I remembered, I went back and I was like, that's why I never with that Ouija board. Like,
Right?
because watching The Exorcist as a child, which I shouldn't have been watching,
It's
totally
wholesome.
mind me. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to get possessed and have my head turned backwards and throw up green crap. Like,
Right.
no, I'm good. So,
I've
yeah. I mean, were you ever scared of playing with it?
um I don't remember if I played with them as a kid or not. Like I had pretty religious friends. They were mostly Christian friends. I was the one
Oh, yeah.
weird one that didn't really follow all of that. Didn't know what Jesus would do. So, but I feel like as I got older, like especially as my kids have gotten older, they've asked me, "Can we get a Ouija board? We want to play with it." And I'm like, I don't know. I think you're just inviting things in with by that, whether it's true, not true, or whatever. I just feel like maybe you're asking for trouble with that one. So,
Yeah.
know what you're getting into if you decide to mess with it.
Yeah, that's very much how I feel about anything in that realm. I kind of sit with the whole, like, I would never go into the wilderness, into like a bear cave,
Right.
and
Just, yeah,
like,
be aware of
yeah,
what
I
you're
mean, I
doing.
feel like exactly. And if you do open yourself up to all sorts of different things, you just got to be mindful about what you're doing. And from my experience with ghosts and spirits and the supernatural is they're not all great. They're not all nice. They're not some energies and vibrations feed off of fear, and they seek to incite that sort of stuff. And
Yeah,
so I I had an incident when I was growing up where I was seeing doppelgangers around my house. My
really.
mom, just the other day, yeah, she called me and she was like, I feel like I just saw your brother walking down the hallway or myself walking into the kitchen. And it's like these shadow figure things you'll kind of see, but they look like us.
Yeah, I know I've
And it,
experienced that before. That's interesting.
have you?
I
Yeah,
have.
I mean, it's, my parents had this house built, maybe like 10 or 15 years ago. And the land, there was nothing really on the land before, but it has been active. And we've seen shadows and stuff walking in and out of the hallways. And for a while we were like, are we bringing people or spiritual energy into the home? Is it
Right.
like, where is it coming from? And I've been meaning to go back to Texas and do some research there, because I feel like there's some sort of vortex, some sort of energy magnet happening in there, and I need to do a good old cleansing on their house,
Oh
sort of
yeah.
thing. But
Just
you've
sage the
experienced
crap
that
out
as
of it.
well? Oh
Um,
my god, yeah.
no, I sage pretty often to exercise my demons, so to speak. Um, but yeah, no, let's see. When my ex-husband and I first got married, we were stationed in Fort Hood, which is in Killeen, Texas. We had an apartment, man, like 10 minutes off base. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, and we had our room pretty dark at the time and slept with all my million fans on. And I remember waking up
Yes.
and looking at the end of the bed and
Yes.
thinking, "Oh, Steve's there." Steve is my ex-husband. Steve's there at the end of the
Hi,
bed.
Steve.
And then there
How
was
you
a
doing?
man, what looked like a man leaning on the bed and just looking back at me, but it was like a shadow figure. Like I couldn't see it exactly, but it was the outline of like a guy. And then
Wow.
I turn next to me and there's my husband sleeping and I start freaking out because I'm like, "Oh my God, I thought that was you," and
Wow.
sorry, give me chills. Sorry. Um,
I just said to you got chills.
yeah.
I yeah.
No, yeah, I
Oh,
just
I'm
like
not in
my hairs
focus,
were
but
like on end right now.
me too. Wow.
But that was
So
interesting.
so you were able to move, right? Because some people claim that they see that stuff and it's like the sleep paralysis demon sitting at the edge of the bed. Were
Yeah.
you able to move and function and or
It shocked me and I woke up and not really woke up, but like shot up out of bed and was like, "Oh my God," and woke him up, of course, because I scared the crap out of me.
yeah.
Um,
Was it still there when he woke up
no.
or
Once I
kind of gone?
turned and looked at him and then looked back, it was gone. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And how about your kids? Like, do they ever experience any kind of, weird things around the house, or have they seen anything like that, or
If
are
they
they just pretty
do,
easy?
they don't necessarily tell me stuff like that. I think in our old house, we lived in North Carrollton, and they would say that they saw what looked like a shadow, like not an adult shadow, more um, not quite a kid shadow. I think it was somewhere height wise in between from what they said that would kind of peek
Yeah.
out over our stairs because our living room was facing a really dark little stairwell that would just kind of cut across the corner and they would just see a shadow like right there. And we would also hear like running up in the upstairs in that one also. That's a pretty constant thing in my life actually, even before we moved to Hawaii. Living in
Really?
Irving, my parents' house, my stepmom and my dad, their house would have that same thing. But I don't ever remember anything like that happening when I lived with my mom, just my dad's house and um, our house in Killeen and then Hawaii and then again in Carrollton.
I had something. If I can share a little story of my childhood, because I like how we're just kind of, learning more about each other and our
Yeah,
encounters
absolutely.
with the strange. One time, my parents, so I'm 10 years older than my middle brother,
Mhm.
who's the next one under me, and I can't. He must have been like around 3 or 4 years old, and so I must have been like 13 or 14 at the time. And it was when computer games were like all the rage, like Doom and
Oh my
Wolfenstein. I don't know
gosh.
if you were a
Doom.
gamer, but do you remember those?
Yeah, I used to play that on my dad's computer with a joystick.
I know. Your dad. Thank you. Um, so yeah, no, it was like not the type of game again that I should probably be playing for mental health reasons or
No, but
just like for sanity of a child. But I remember my parents loved going out to dinner, and
mhm.
so they would often go out to dinner and be like, "Hey, do you want to go out to dinner?" And I would be playing the games, and I'm like, "No, leave me alone. I want to play my games." And every now and then, they would usually take my brother, but if he was sleeping or napping or something like that, they would let him, be in peace and
Yeah.
ask me to watch him or babysit him.
Mhm.
And so one time in particular, I was playing my video game,
Mhm.
and I remember hearing them say, "Hey, we're going out to dinner." I thought I heard them say to look after your little brother. Um, so I'm playing my game and I hear like this ruckus upstairs. And I hear running around and I hear all sorts of stuff and thumping. And I am screaming upstairs, like, "Hey," from the computer, just, "Hey, shut up." Be quiet. And I heard this loud crash. And it was like a big,
Oh
and
wow.
I know I ran upstairs because I was just like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, you're breaking something." And so I ran upstairs, and his bedroom door was shut and locked.
Mhm.
The light was on because I could see it underneath. And I started banging on the door, and I told him, like, "Open up. Like, open up and let me see what you did,
Yeah.
or you're going to get in trouble. I'm like threatening, mom and dad are going to
Well, you're
be real
expecting to
mad
see
at you.
probably a mess up there.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded like a big crash and like, and he wouldn't do it. And so I went downstairs because our door locks they were not so fancy that you couldn't just stick a knife in there and twist it
Right.
and
Yeah.
like pop it open. So I went downstairs and I got a knife and I went back up. And as I was coming around the corner of the stairs to his room, the door was wide open. The fan was so the light in the ceiling fan was what was on and what I was seeing underneath the door. It was now dark and the fan was slowly like coming to a stop.
Okay.
And I see that he had like a Fisher Price art easel, like the big blue ones. And so it was knocked down and his markers and pens and paint and everything was scattered all over the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But he was not in the room. And
Oh my
nothing was
gosh.
on during the room. It was almost like all of the power just, like everything was shut off.
Yeah.
And I remember just like screaming and I'm like, where the F did you go, you little effer? Like, get in here and
Think
clean
he's
this up.
messing with you.
Yes, and I'm just losing my teenage mind and talking with in a very aggressive profanity
I'm
laced
sure, like
way that
older brother pissed off.
like older brother who has to clean shit up would talk. And my parents are coming in downstairs.
Hmm.
And I was not allowed to talk like this in front of my parents. And my dad heard me cussing and he was like, boy, what's wrong with you? You're not supposed to talk like that. And what's your problem? And I was like, Jacob's up here. He made a mess. He spilled his stuff all over the place. And now he's going to be in trouble. Come up here and look.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, what are you talking about? Jacob's asleep in the back seat.
Oh my God.
And I
That
said,
was,
excuse me? And I come downstairs and my dad had gone back out to the car and like picked him up and was carrying him in. And the entire time I was home by myself.
oh,
And yeah. And so I had this very vivid encounter of chasing around my brother and yelling at him, but I was not. Like it
yeah.
just didn't happen. And I wish I could say that was like my only experience with that kind of stuff, but shortly thereafter, my dad had actually, because my brother was also, he was like 3, he wasn't really sleeping in his own bed.
Hmm.
And so he still had a little bed set up in my parents' room. And every night they would put him to bed and then carry him out from his little bed there and put him into his big bed in his bedroom.
Hmm.
And one night when he had fallen asleep, my dad was moving him into his bedroom. And he said that he saw a little girl walk around the side of the bed and come and stand next to him as he was laying him down. And when he turned, he said that the figure apparition had disappeared,
Hmm.
but where my brother's TV was angled, he could see the reflection still of somebody standing next to him in the
Oh my
black
gosh. That would
mirror
be so
silhouette.
creepy.
Yeah. And he freaked out. And my dad does not believe in any of the woo woo stuff. He doesn't
Yeah.
believe in ghosts. But you better believe that next morning he was like telling my mom, you need to go through with the holy water and pray over this house because I saw something and I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah.
But he didn't say anything in front of my brother. And when we asked my brother, who he's always talking to and playing with upstairs in his room,
Hmm.
he said it was his friend Rosebud. And my
That's, oh
dad
my God.
said, yeah, he was like, what does Rosebud look like? And he said, well, she has yellow hair and a red dress. And his vocabulary wasn't very big. And so, but my dad turned white and like looked at my mom and he was like, that's exactly what I saw. I
Oh
saw a
my
little
gosh.
braided blonde girl wearing a red polka dot dress. That's what I
Yeah.
saw. um yeah, so I can relate there with you and your
That's
crazy
a pretty
footsteps.
intense experience that you guys seem to have had in that house. Some
Yeah.
definite
And
energy
it's
happening.
weird now because my dad now knows that I'm starting this podcast and doing all of this stuff, and he still refuses to acknowledge certain experiences that we've all had
Yeah.
in our houses, as a family unit. And it's very interesting. I'm like, why, Dad? Like, you witnessed it. I witnessed it. We've all had experiences with it.
Right.
Like, you're not crazy. But he just doesn't seem to care. He's like, denial is you know.
Not just a place in Egypt. My dad was the exact same way. I think that's something to be said for Latino culture there.
That machismo, girl, that
Yeah,
machismo
absolutely.
is just big and large. And I'm actually, hopefully, I will be interviewing soon Daphne La Hechicera. I
Ooh,
don't know
that's
if
a
I'm saying that
name.
correctly. Oh my God, it's a name. Laura Davila, she's the author of a book called Brujeria del Rancho.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about like country Mexican folk magic. And it's intense. But, you know, like as I've been reading the book and going back to that place, it reminds me, like, are you close to like Latino descendants of your family? Like, you know, with the
Not super
folksy.
close. My dad was what I like to call the whitest Mexican. So he
Yeah,
didn't really embrace that side of his family. I feel like I've tried to embrace that as I've gotten older more so. Um,
yeah.
but
It's an interesting book. You should check it out.
yeah, you'll have to.
Reconnect with your distant Latin roots.
I'll have to get that information from you and check that out because that does sound interesting.
Yeah,
And I'm all about reconnecting with my past. Latino culture is just so vibrant and well, it's full of it's very spiritual also.
yeah, yeah,
They set up the ofrenda and all of that stuff for to help the dead come back from
yeah.
the spirit realm.
You know,
And
I've been doing that lately. I've been working on an altar, like an ancestral altar,
yeah.
um, only because in the last 2 years, maybe, whenever I've gotten readings and whatnot from people, uh, my great grandmother Luce always keeps coming into the readings,
Hmm.
and people keep picking up on her. And I don't think I met her in my life. I think she had already passed, but people definitely bring her up. And it's weird too because Luce isn't a very common name in
Right. It's not
American dialect.
the one
Yeah.
you encounter all the time.
Yeah. And I think the way it was like loose was like light, like loose is in Spanish.
Hmm.
Um, And so every time people are like, "Oh yeah, you've got this." No, it's not your grandmother. She's older than that. Starts with an L. Is it like Lucy or Lucinda? Or it's funny. Everybody's like, they're guessing around. You know, they're sniffing around the right thing, and I'm like, oh, it's loose. So I've been called to create like an ancestral altar, and
Yeah.
so I'm a big. You should definitely do it, and I'm a big proponent of that because I always say, like, especially now that I'm getting in touch with my mediumship side and building that, like the spiritual energy of people that pass is always so different on the other side.
Hmm.
Like it's like they're aware of all their fuck ups or their human flaws,
Right.
and they just don't care because their energy to be helpful to us is so much stronger than that. It's almost like they're saying like, okay, we're going to blindfold you and then you're going to go live this life. And so that's what happens to a spirit and a soul when it gets an earthly
Yeah.
life. You know, it loses all of the spiritual wisdom it's come up with, and it basically has to fend for itself on this plane. And then once it's released from its earthly body, it's like, okay, we took oh, that's what was happening the whole time. Oh my God, I was
Just the veil
so
has been
dumb.
lifted.
Like, I know the veil is lifted, and it's like a learning experience for the soul. I truly believe that that's what life is. Like it's almost like the Matrix.
Yeah.
You know, we plug in, we experience, we learn, we love, we laugh, we grow, and then we move on, and then we kind of look back at the experience. We're like, oh, I could have done better. Send me in,
Yeah.
coach. I'll do it again. You know?
Yeah. No, it's I think there's something to that for sure. If you've ever witnessed a soul leaving a body, there's something to that. I think there's more than just, tissue and blood keeping us together and inside of us. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not very eloquently put, but um,
No, absolutely. I agree
it's
with that too.
there's something to be said for seeing I don't know, like I said, someone's soul leaving their body and everything that makes them, like, go. So, like, where does it go? Something I've always
Yeah,
kind of wondered.
me too.
So,
So, if you had to give advice to past you, and
Oh
maybe
Lord.
that advice can be turned to our audience as far as like spiritualism and open mindedness, what advice would that be?
What advice would I give to like younger me on that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say just be open-minded. Don't discount anything. Just do yourself a service and do what feels right. Go find your own research. Feel like you can express yourself in that way and don't, I guess, limit yourself to one way of thinking because the world is too broad for all of that, you know?
I feel that definitely because one of my biggest, things on this journey is doubting myself. When you experience something that's weird, you always want to write it off
Yeah.
and doubt yourself and think, no, that hairspray bottle didn't just fly at me.
Well,
It was an earthquake. I'm making it up.
well, and I feel like society tells us also to kind of brush stuff like that off and to stay very science-based and to only really believe what you can see and what's tangible. And that feels so limiting
Yeah.
in the
So what you're
spectrum of the
saying, I
world.
think, is embrace the woo woo.
Oh, totally, totally embrace the woo-woo. So
Well, this is really fun to say. I mean, come on. Woo woo.
I connect very much with my woo-woo friends like you. I love it. So
I love that too. Well, thank you so much for being here today. And yeah, if I'm going to go ahead and put all of Elenia's links to her socials, if you want to follow her makeup artistry, please do it. If you're in Texas or in the Dallas area and you need a good makeup artist and a snatch and a beat,
oh, thank
call
you,
my
right?
girl.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to hear more metaphysical stories and experiences, then please show some love, give me a like, a subscribe, a comment, review. I look forward to hearing your stories and sharing more with you. Until next time, Woo family.